when it comes to fruition, it will be a fiscal speed bump. That's how I would describe it as such. Ultimately, what will happen is hopefully Congress will come to an agreement on a budget deal. And the only thing that really concerns me is the timing of the deal. So much of the fiscal cliff was hammered out in the Budget Control Act of 2011, and that was the summer of the debt ceiling crisis. So Congress procrastinated, and as a result, government bond yields rose, costing the taxpayers $1.3 billion because they waited till the 11th hour. That's my concern now, is that they will do the same. But ultimately, a deal will be hashed out.
And that's the whole issue of the debt ceiling, and because we lost our rating?
Yes, Standard & Poor's downgraded us from AAA, 3 capital A's, to 2 capital A's, 1 lowercase a. The fiscal cliff is the combination of what is called sequestration, which is the automatic cuts to federal government spending, combined with increases in tax rates, which are really just the expiration of past tax rate cuts. So, such as the Bush-era tax cuts, the payroll tax, the alternative minimum tax, they will be set to expire. In all, this will amount to about $600 billion, or about 4% of GDP. Now, if this occurs in totality on midnight, December 31st, then the first half of 2013, we will experience a contraction in the economy of 1.3%, and over the entire year, a contraction of 0.5%. That is, we will slip back into a recession. If it happens in totality, so if all of the cuts to discretionary and defense spending occur, and if all of the tax rates are allowed to go up, then we are projected to go into recession, essentially, over the next year.
And nobody wants that, obviously.
Nobody wants this at all. So that's why I am pretty confident that an agreement will be made.
What do I need to know, and why do I care about the fiscal cliff?
You care about the fiscal cliff because ultimately the tax rates that you will have to pay will most likely increase. Now, they will most likely increase depending on which parts of the tax rate expirations are allowed to occur. So, for instance, the payroll tax, if that's allowed to, the payroll tax cut, if that's allowed to expire, you will probably pay an additional $2,000 in taxes over the next year. It is most likely the case that had we not slipped into a recession from the end of 2007 through the middle of 2009, that we would have let these Bush-era tax cuts, deductions, capital gains, dividends, payroll taxes, they would have expired had this recession not occurred. I do believe they will defer, once again, the alternative minimum tax, which people really don't know about or understand very well. That will, again, be deferred for another year, I believe. But the payroll tax, I believe that will be allowed to expire.
Because the economy's better?
Because this was part of the Budget Control Act deal, looking for different sources of revenue to help address the fiscal situation. Combination of fiscal cliff and Obama policy, I think that middle-class tax rates will stay right about where they are. It is the periphery tax provisions that we need to think about. Deductions on mortgage interest rates, estate tax issues, capital gains issues. These are the things that are really being manipulated to help find different sources of revenue, because it's agreed that we need to find alternative sources of revenue while at the same time making some cuts to federal spending. It will help the debt position of the United States. For instance, if we go over the fiscal cliff in totality, we will go from a 2012 deficit of $1.1 trillion, which is very large historically, to a 2013 deficit of $640 billion. That will be the largest one-year drop in the deficit since 1969.
What do you think?
Massive.
What would happen to the economy, though?
It would contract as projected. It would contract. But it puts us on a more sustainable, if you want to address our debt and deficit, this is a very sharp, poignant way to do so. And it will give our debt to GDP ratio a lot of depression, which is what people think we need in the next 10 years. So by 2022, we'll have a debt to GDP ratio of about 56%.
Do you have a personal opinion what they should do, or do you ever get into that?
If I was going to levy a personal opinion on what should be done normatively, I would say there should be an intermediary, balanced approach to this. We live in a very ideologically polarized world that I don't think benefits the constituents that the political system is supposed to represent. If we are, if we're going to address the debt issue, I think that we need to make more long-term balanced cuts, perhaps, to spending, but without putting any more pressure on the economy that's really fragile and growing at a very moderate pace at present.
And how about we have to have more revenue, don't we?
Absolutely. The last